Tonight on the Just Freedom Radio Show, we will be discussing monuments as we continue on a series where we are looking at monuments that exist throughout the world, and we dialogue, debate, discuss monuments that should be created that are not presently erected. Tonight, in particular, we will be discussing activism and athletes, along with monuments. I'm your host, Jamaal Brown. You are listening to the Gist of Freedom Radio Show. You can check out more of our shows at blackhistoryuniversity.com. There you will find over 500 shows. You can find out more about me, Mr. Black 365, at black365.com. There you will find a whole host of educational products good for all ages. Tonight is the fourth night since our brother Jacob Blake was shot and there has been subsequent fallout. I've been keeping up with the news, keeping up with all of the headlines, and again, I must admit that I am not optimized. I'm asking for the spirit of our ancestors as well as our wonderful guests to keep me uplifted, as we always do. We understand that images shape our reality, so we have a host of images that we will be showing and will be guiding our discussion. Here we go. What's going on in Milwaukee? There's riots, again, as a result of our brother Jacob Blake, who has been shot. And it's eerily reminiscent, in my humble opinion, to this scene that occurred in Virginia, where counter-protesters have taken to the streets. So I couldn't tell you too much, with too much certainty, what typically happens when these other protesters show up. But here we see a scene from Charlottesville, and we know that violence accompanied their presence there in Charlottesville. To compound the issue of our brother Jacob Blake being shot 7 times in his back. Again, we are spotlighting athletes, we are spotlighting activism, we are spotlighting memories and memorials and statues. I can't help but think of what the NBA, as well as a number of other leagues, are currently going through. As of last night, the NBA playoff games were, some say a labor stoppage, some call it a boycott. I'm not exactly sure what the best term is, but it does not go without precedent. We have seen throughout our history the rallying around, the stepping up and stepping forward of athletes in a time of conflict. Here we have what has come to be known as the Cleveland Conference, where Muhammad Ali, there in the center of your picture, was stripped of his world title, was stripped of his boxing championship belt because he took a stand. He refused to be silent. He refused to step forward and risk his life, risk his limb, risk his word, risk his dignity in the pursuit or in the cause of American imperialism, American patriot, being a patriot. He did not step forward when he was called upon to do so for the Army. Again, we are spotlighting athletes tonight in our series of statues because the NBA players have, as I like to say, taken a seat in order to make a stand. They refuse to play. Millions of dollars of commerce, millions of viewers did not get what they wanted last night because a group of brave individuals who are members of the NBA did not put their energy, their effort, their soul into the game, because there is a larger narrative, a larger discussion that needs to be had at this time. Chris Paul is short in stature, but certainly in these times is standing like a giant as he is taking a stand and moving the consciousness forward. He is, from what I understand, the player representative, the head of the players union, representing the players. He immediately was able to identify the fact that at this time, it's not a time for entertainment. At this time, it's not a time for pacification. It's time for real discussions and real things to take place. Here we see one of the most iconic photos that I'm sure Chris Paul and the others took energy from. We have here a number of players who were at the start of their careers and some in the prime of their careers. We have Mr. Russell. We have Jim Brown. We have a young Lou Alcindor before he was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Again, taking a seat in order to make a stand, showing solidarity with Muhammad Ali. I did a little research prior to coming on this evening, and I understood that through my research that Bob Arum, a boxing promoter, set up this meeting. Not for this meeting to turn out the way that it did, though. No, as a boxing promoter, he gets paid, obviously, when someone boxes. He had the exclusive closed circuit rights to the Muhammad Ali fights. So he wanted these brothers to come and discourage Ali in his stance. Put another way, he wanted them to encourage Muhammad Ali to put down his stance, fly over and be a boxer and put on boxing exhibitions near the battle lines. But Muhammad Ali is filled with conviction, is filled with honor, is filled with dignity, and he could not be swayed. And the brothers, from what I understand, did not put up too big of a fight in an attempt to dissuade our brother Muhammad Ali. And again, as I stated, he was stripped of his titles, forced out of boxing, all because he did not want to take part in American imperialism and fight people, as he said, who had never called him the N-word. For his courage, for his stance, for being a principled man, we honor Muhammad Ali. Here are two brothers. You might not recognize them as they have aged, but if you look in the background, you will see a statue. This statue represents Summer Olympics, the year 1968, Mexico City, Mexico, where these two brothers who are in the foreground, on the left, John Carlos, on the right, Tommy Smith, rose a black power fist, rose a gloved fist in a show of solidarity with the working people, with the struggling people, with the black people around the world. They were not radicals, but what they did was indeed radical. I am sure as they stood atop that podium that they had no idea of the reverberations that their simple and silent actions would have. They were summarily sent home from the Olympics. They were summarily blacklisted. I have had personal conversations with John Carlos, the brother on the left, who said that he had to take his daughter out of school, out of college, because of the incessant death threats. FBI agents and other governmental agents would routinely sit outside of his house and surveil his house. But he said that didn't crush him. That didn't stop him. That did not shake his foundation one bit. That's all that act was about. Showing solidarity, showing unity with the struggles of oppressed people around the world. There's another statue that has been created to memorialize and show forever the actions of our dear brothers, Tommy Smith and John Carlos. This is at the Smithsonian. I personally have not had an opportunity to go and view this statue as of yet, or view that beautiful edifice and all the great things inside of it, but it is certainly on my list of things to do in the near future. I mentioned that those two brothers were blacklisted. They were not the first or the last brothers to be blacklisted for making a stand. for demonstrating what their heart, what their soul, what their conscience told them to do. Here is a poster of a movie where Louis Gossett Jr. Played the great Leroy Satchel Paige. This brother, too, was indeed blacklisted. Satchel Paige played in the Negro Leagues, played in the big leagues, major leagues as well. He, from my research and my memory are correct, he was the oldest rookie ever to play, still to this day, in Major League Baseball. Why? Because he was blacklisted for a number of years. He did not take the traditional route. He did not always abide by the company line, as you would say. He didn't go along to get along. That just was not who he was. And so for his position, for his stance, for his outlook, he was blacklisted. But yet and still, he had fortitude, he had insight, and he had a backbone, as my father would say. And so he took his talents elsewhere. We know we've heard that line before, I'm taking my talents, here or there. He took his talents around the globe. He was an amazing pitcher. He had a ball that they said sometimes when it came out of his hand, it looked like a little pebble. It looked like a pea, how fast he could throw the ball and how the different pitches and things he had. So again, we are the talent, and take our talents and our resources and our energy and our efforts to the collective. So Satchel Paige and his Satchel Paige All-Stars did just that. They traveled around the globe demonstrating what they can do on the diamond, the baseball diamond that is.